welcome back to Running the Reader. Today we are going to be going over five kind of queer slash romance books that I am looking to read. So I am a gay man myself. It is the month of June, so happy Pride. I hope that everyone is doing well and is making it through. I don't typically get too political or comment on a lot of things on my channel, but I know that times are hard and scary for not just the queer community, but a lot of communities. And so I hope that everyone is doing well. I do like to keep things more fun over here. So I'm not going to touch on too many, you know, tough topics right now. Really, today I want to go over, like I said, just five books that kind of cover the sphere or the topic of being queer. Specifically, some of these are more focused on the male queer space and specifically that gay space. But I'm not saying that that is by far the only kind of LGBTQIA plus books out there. So we are just going to jump right in. The first book falls under more of a kind of romantic comedy, just traditional, cute romance book, and that is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is like a fake dating trope. I believe it's very similar to Red, White, and Royal Blue. And I've seen this book around. I've gotten it from the library a couple times and just haven't gotten to it yet. I am interested in getting to it. I know a lot of people enjoy this particular one. I did read one other Alexis Hall book, and I forget what it's called, maybe Waiting for the Flood. It was more of a short novella that I just listened to as an audiobook, and it was fine. So I definitely am interested in continuing and checking this one out. I know there is a sequel called Husband Material, so we'll see how I feel about that. I typically am not a huge fan of sequels to romances, so we'll see if I even want to read that one once I finished up with Boyfriend Material. The second book is The House by the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is, again, more of a male-male romance, but it's not even necessarily a romance. I believe it's more of just a kind of magical fantasy story that features elements of a romance story in it. And really, this book is a placeholder. I really have to just read TJ Klune in general. His books get recommended to me by a ton of people all of the time, both online and in my real life. I know a lot of my friends have read and loved a lot of TJ Klune's, so I just kind of need to get on that bandwagon, finally take the dive. I hear that this is their best work, and the one that people tend to enjoy the most, so this is why this one is on my kind of checkout pile. But I know there are some other, I think, more straightforward romance stories, and I know there's a couple of series that may or may not be ongoing that this author has participated in. So for sure interested in just checking out their work in general and finally diving into this kind of queer author. The next book on the list is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This is a pretty famous, I would say, work of literature that is mainly focused on the queer space. And so it's just a book that a lot of gay men have recommended over the years. Similar, this book is not on the list, but it's similar to The Velvet Rage, which I actually think is more of a nonfiction book. Giovanni's Room is a fiction story. I believe the book is more of a historical setting. I think it is set in the 1940s or 50s in Europe, I believe. And I think just tells the story of a queer gay man. I don't know if there's necessarily a love interest or multiple love interests, or if it's just following his life, but I know this is just a really famous work of fiction featuring a gay man. And so just kind of for the history of it, and I don't know how well it holds up. I really haven't seen any modern day reviews of it, but it's a book that I've just have heard about a lot and would like to one day read. It's not something that is on necessarily the top of my reading list that I plan on even the next maybe 5 years necessarily reading, but when I just feel like the time is right, because I also feel like this book is going to be a pretty difficult read. I have a really hard time with reading those more hard-hitting contemporaries or just generalized literary fiction stories. I tend for my violence per se, I guess, or just those hard-hitting topics to be more in science fiction or fantasy books. I just can digest it a little bit easier because sometimes literary fiction is just a little too real. But I do want to get to this one. The next book on this list is How to Lose the Time War, which is more of like a science fiction story. I believe it follows two like time traveling spies, I believe. I think that they are both women, but I've also heard that the story has, or like the characters necessarily don't have a gender assigned to them. So it's really interesting. I know that this one is, I think, a little bit of a shorter book and told more in like letter format back and forth between these two people. So it's not a straight narrative, and I'm always looking for more interesting narrative choices done in books, just because I find it to be fun and it is fun to read. So I've heard that this one is also a good audiobook as well. So one that I've been on the lookout for as far as getting my hands on for a while, just hasn't come up naturally for a good time to read it, or for me to feel like I'm in like a really good place to necessarily read it. So hopefully that will happen relatively soon. But yeah, this one has gotten really great reviews. I've seen it all around BookTube. It was really, really popular a couple of years ago. A lot of people were really reading it, and I still see it pop up fairly often in videos here and there and on Instagram a lot. So I know it's still kind of getting a lot of circulation and still people are enjoying it a lot. So definitely want to check this one out. The last book on this list is going to be The Sluts by Dennis Cooper, I believe is the author of this. This is a book that I just recently found while scrolling through Instagram. It is a horror book that is following some sex workers, specifically like male escorts who are servicing other men. I hear that this book is a lot. It's very grotesque, it's really dark and disturbing. So I am a little nervous going into it, but I do want to just check it out because it just sounds so intriguing to me. I think the story choices, like the just the idea of following male escorts, it's not something that I've seen in a lot of books that I come across naturally. So it's just a story topic that I have not experienced before. The horror elements do make me a little bit nervous because it is marketed first and foremost as a horror book. And as I was talking about with literary fiction, I do have a tougher time with that violence. I can read like mystery thrillers or slashers, and those just for some reason it's a different disconnect in my brain than when it's more of like a real life story. So yeah, this one interesting. Don't know how it's going to turn out. Don't know how it's going to go, but I definitely want to get to it here in the next couple of weeks. Really, hopefully over the summertime. My library doesn't have it though, so I do think I may have to buy a physical copy. But yeah, I think this might be the first book on this list, even though it's the one I found most recently, that I may actually end up checking out. All right, so that is it for this video. Those are 5 kind of queer focused romances or just books in general that I want to check out. So once again, please let me know what you are reading for this Pride Month, and I'm always looking for new kind of queer book recommendations, so definitely leave them down below. But that is it. So thank you so much for watching. I will have a new video up for you very, very soon. But until then, I will talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.